So Adam, I want to jump right in and talk about your incredible new foundation, the Feel Something Foundation.
My new foundation?
Which I actually am wearing new foundation.
Very summery.
You're looking gorgeous, I have to say. But I love the message, what you're trying to do by making the expression coming out disappear.
Yeah.
I think there's such a stigma attached to that. In today's society, we do not need to come out because you are who you are.
Absolutely.
And I just think it's such a beautiful message. And it brings up the topic of stigmas. And one of the stigmas I have, that I know it's going to sound so stupid to you, but it's something that I've carried with me my whole life. When I was a kid, someone said in school, they used to say, "Smelly Kelly with the big belly whose dad's on the telly." And I have this whole thing of always thinking that I smell. So I'm always wearing something and showering 3 times a day. I have body dysmorphia, and I've always been a little bit ashamed of being on TV as a result of that little thing that someone said to me when I was a kid.
Yeah.
And it's crazy to think that these little tiny things that don't even mean anything get carried with us our whole life and turn into something so big.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think with the coming out thing, it's really interesting because you talk to different members of the gay community about the different generations that have gone through what they've gone through. You know, obviously the last generation had to fight for where we are today. And so it's hard for a lot of people of the older generation in the queer community to say, no, coming out's really important. We had to do that. That was a political statement. That was something that we had to be really bold about in order to move the needle, and that's all valid. But I think what we're looking at now is we're looking ahead. We're looking at what's next and where we're at this moment. And it's a hard thing because it's changing so fast. It's rapidly evolving, and you know, for anybody that feels like an other or feels like an outsider, we've like upped the conversation on that a lot over the past 10 years, for example. We talk about things now. Things are out in the open, and it's a really exciting time because we know what to call things. We know how to define things and how to explain things, as opposed to keeping them as taboos, things we're not supposed to talk about. And that's good. I think that's a big step.
I agree with you so much, and it's one of those things where it's always an uncomfortable conversation to have, but it's a conversation that needs to be had.
Yeah, absolutely.
Every generation, there's new issues that need to be addressed. Like, did you ever think, even 3 months ago, 4 months ago, that we would be where we are now?
This is a whole new thing. I mean, I think that it's scary, and it's different, and it's something that we're not really sure of. But I think if there's any silver lining here, if there's any positive from it, I think that we're all going through it together. Everyone's affected by this on different levels, but everyone's being affected. We haven't had like a shared experience as like a whole world like this, I think, ever in our lifetimes. So I think that there's a certain sense of unity that we can find if we try, and a sense of understanding. And I hope that on the other side of this, when everything sort of calms down a bit, when we get past the major spike of this thing, I hope that the people are more, you know, empathetic and caring toward one another. I think they will be. I really do.
I feel like I agree with you so much, and it's like a reset button. We needed to be taught perspective and kindness again.
Yeah.
It's insane that something like this had to happen for that shift to go into place. But I am seeing people being kinder to one another.
Me too.
Checking on their neighbor, and I'm reaching out to people I haven't spoken to in a long time, and reconnecting with friends. And it's been really nice to not have my daily routine be so consumed with, am I wearing the right outfit? Do I have makeup on? Does my hair look nice? All the stuff that is so superficial, I would never even think about again. Like, I'm going to completely shift the way I do everything moving forward.
Yeah. And I think that on the topic of mental health, I think it's also bringing up anxiety for people that have never dealt with anxiety before. I mean, let alone the people that do deal with anxiety regularly. I mean, it's tricky.
I am one of those people that
Same.
I've dealt with anxiety terribly my whole life. And one of the things was that I didn't know that that's what it was I was having.
Me neither.
I had no idea that it was anxiety until I started going to therapy. I had no idea. I would always say I don't feel well, but it was just anxiety the whole time.
I've been learning about so much as well. I mean, I think I looked back on the last 10 or so years and I realized like, oh, that was anxiety.
Right?
Like, oh, yeah. And this is like a good example of, us talking about things being out in the open now, not being taboo, because of the fact that everyone's talking about this stuff now and it's out in the open. People that may not have understood what they were going through now can get out there and understand it. I mean, now that it's an open conversation, I started realizing, oh, I guess I fall into that category. I think I've been dealing with that as well. 100%.
All of these things that I never for a couple of weeks during quarantine, I actually do believe that I was depressed for a while. And it was until I put a routine in place for myself where I got out of bed and I got showered, got dressed, put makeup on, even if I'm not going anywhere, that gets out a chunk of your day and it makes you feel good to like what you see in the mirror. And it made a difference. I've learned new skills. I'm learning how to cook. Ooh. And not setting anything on fire or burning anything. So that is something that's been really fun for me. I have, as I said, reconnected with old friends. I've been doing meditation, which is something I've never done before. And how much it is helping me is unbelievable. Like that, just 10 minutes. I do guided meditations because if it's just the music, the way that my mind goes, I'll be like all over the place. I'll be in the future, the past. Imagine.
I have not. I keep hearing about meditation being this most amazing thing. I have friends that do it and swear by it. I haven't tried it yet because.
Oh my God! Now you have to try it.
Now I'm going to. Yeah.
You have to try it.
It's not like I don't have time.
Right. And it's
I have the same kind of brain. Like my brain is overactive. I'm an overthinker.
Me too.
I get in my head really easily.
I fall down that rabbit hole so quick, and then the next thing I know, I've spiraled, and my whole day is ruined.
Yeah, and you know what? For those out there that are also learning about their own mental health that might have these same struggles, something that I heard recently that I kind of liked, and maybe it's something that would make you feel better, is that they say that people that are suffering from anxiety and all these things, overthinking and being hard on themselves, they tend to be smarter people.
Really?
Yeah, it's like a symptom of an intelligent mind because we're.
I think I missed the boat on that one.
I just think like when you're in that space.
Mom, say hi to Adam. Mom, just say
Adam.
I love you.
How's your mum doing?
She's good. She's really
Tell
good.
her hi from me.
Yeah.
Okay.
I love your new hair, by the way. It's so chic.
Isn't it good? Oh, I did that.
I love it. I saw the pictures right when you first unveiled it, and I was like, yes. When you come to the realization, especially like the first time you start realizing that you're dealing with something, the reaction is to say, oh, what's wrong with me?
Always.
And I think that that's what's being sort of rethought right now is that, look, everyone's got stuff. Everyone's got their own equation of challenges and struggles that they go through. And it made me feel better, be like, oh, it's because I'm smart. Okay.
I'm just going to keep telling myself that now.
It made me feel
really
better.
believe
like,
it.
Right. Yeah, it's because I'm smart. Yeah.
I'm just, so intelligent.
It's just, my brain's huge. Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, I think anybody out there, I think the good news is that like, because it's out in the open too, you start realizing that so many other people are dealing with it as well. Like people in the celebrity world are being open about it. That's great. It's a great time to sort of be open and vulnerable. I
think so too. And owning your vulnerability is the first step in really figuring out who you are.
Absolutely.
And that was something for me in getting sober that was really, really difficult because it's weird. I am equally as tough as I am vulnerable, and figuring out how to be in the middle is a challenge for me because I'm one or the other, like a total extremist. And
I think you and I have that in common.
I do too.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think it's something that you learn at an early age. It's sort of a defense mechanism. You go, okay, I feel scared or weak or sensitive, vulnerable, and I'm going to do something to sort of fight against that. And I'm going to create this persona that I can click into for protection.
Exactly.
And some of that is somewhat healthy, and then it can very easily cross a line and become unhealthy.
Yes.
Yeah. When it's all ego and the ego's being, inflated, and then you turn into somebody that we all make fun of, and you don't want that. You want to keep a balance in your life.
I always think that there's a saying they always say in England when I was a kid, you need to have a word with yourself. And I never truly understood what they meant by that until I got older. And I'm like, you know what? No one's perfect. You're not better than everyone else or anyone else. You are flawed, and your flaws make you perfect.
Absolutely.
Your flaws make you who you are. The mistakes that I have made, I have learned so much from them. And those feelings that come up that make me feel like I'm alone in what I'm going through, I have learned that that's just my mind telling me that, and that's not.
Yeah, it's like that voice that tells you that stuff is like, it's just trying to derail you from your progress. It's just a narrative that you do not have to subscribe to. You do not have to listen to that narrative.
No. It's not my narrative anymore.
And the other thing too, I think, is that I think a lot of us, when we're going through this, especially at the beginning and the first times we're starting to deal with things like anxiety or depression, we feel alone in that. And I think now that we know that so many other people also are going through what we're going through, it's really important to try to find a person or a couple people you trust that you can be open with, so you don't have to deal with this on your own. It makes it a lot easier to have a confidant, a good bestie that you can open up to and you have an open dialogue with. There's no trust issues. I think that if you go to your best friend, for example, if you're somebody that's dealing with this and you are really honest, if that person's a real friend, they're going to be there for you. They're going to understand it. They're going to support you. That's a great way to kind of field out your real friendships from your BS fake friendships, Yeah.
And I think that in this specific time in life is showing you who your real friends are. It's doing that favor for you. It's cutting out all the people who don't care enough to pick up the phone to you and showing you who your real friends are. So you have that as kind of a crash course in what's important to you, what's important in your relationships, and the people that you need to keep closest. Like I have my 3 people that I call 17 times a day, that like from the minute I'm awake to the minute I go to bed, we're all on this group text message with each other, just checking in. And if you haven't heard from somebody yet and you're listening to this right now, reach out to the people you haven't heard from. Make sure they're okay. It takes 2 seconds.
I think some of what anxiety comes from, in some cases, at least for me personally, is there's that whole people pleasing thing. And like you and I are both, we've both been around LA for a long time. Yeah. Your
Remember
family,
we used to live in the same building?
We did.
That was a fun building.
But we grew up, you grew up on TV. I mean, it's like there is a certain amount of people pleasing that goes on. You worry about what people think of you. You worry about how you look. It's worry. That's where the anxiety comes from. And I think now that, we're in this generation where everyone has Instagram, everyone's on social media, we're all sort of putting ourselves out there. And you have to make the decision for yourself, like, where's my boundary? How much do I want to put myself out there? How comfortable am I with this? No one's forcing you to express yourself in a way that doesn't make you comfortable. Exactly. You have the right to say, I'm comfortable with this, I'm not comfortable with this. You know what I mean?
And no is a full sentence. I used to be one of those people that was so frightened to say no to someone. And I made myself miserable by always saying yes. And it's that little thing of having that confidence within to say, I'm not comfortable with this. It doesn't make you whiny. It doesn't make you a brat. It just it makes you a confident human being who knows who they are. And I think that that's a very attractive quality in a human.
Absolutely. And if you feel pressure to be involved in something that does not make you feel good, don't do it. I mean, I know that sounds complicated. But
Especially now, right now.
Yeah, especially
Don't do
right now,
things
yeah.
that make you uncomfortable. Do things that bring joy to your life. Take time for you. That 15-minute bath at the end of a day can make such a big difference. Little things like that I've been doing have really helped. And I've made sure that I walk around the kitchen counter so many times when I wasn't allowed out. So I get 10,000 steps. I call all my friends. They're like, "Are you still walking around that counter?" I'm like, "Yep." I got to get those steps in.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds cliche, but it really can get better. It can, but you got to do a little work. You got to look at yourself in the mirror and be honest with yourself, and take the necessary steps. I mean, therapy is, like what you mentioned, therapy is amazing. I started taking therapy. I started seeing a therapist as well, and it's been really helpful.
It was such a big step for me to do that, because being English, and you know what they're like in England, when you talk about therapy or therapist, it's like, "Oh, you're crazy." It's the first thing anyone says to you. "Why? What? Are you crazy?" And you're like, "No, I'm not crazy. I actually think you're crazy if you don't talk to somebody."
Yeah.
That's what makes
or I'm trying not to become crazy.
That's why I'm going.
I'm trying to make sure I don't get that way. Yeah.
And so it's all of these words that I started to then turn it around on them and be like, "Yeah, I am crazy, and I like being crazy." So I go and see this person, I talk to them about my crazy, and it's great. And it disarms people, and they can't judge you for it. But we are becoming more aware that things like this need to not have a stigma, and everybody needs somebody to talk to. And it's, we're lucky we can afford to pay someone and sit in front of them. Not everybody is like that, and there are some incredible support groups online, and I would encourage people to look up in their area and see what is available, because some of the ways in which people have come together to support one another has been so beautiful.
Absolutely.
That's the beauty in all of this. That's the light in all of this dark times that we're going through.
Yeah, absolutely.
The creativity, and I'm sure you're working on music right now.
I am. And that was the thing. Like you, I think the first few weeks of this whole quarantine, I didn't know what to make of how I felt. I was also a bit depressed. I was kind of in shock because I couldn't believe it. I was like, "What?" And so I kind of shut down a little bit for a minute and just kind of like needed to sort of have time to myself to figure it out and process, and that's okay.
Are you one of those people, because I am, that when you see suffering, it affects you deeply?
Yeah.
Like when I see.
Yeah, there's a collective anxiety that everyone's sort of experiencing right now, and you feel it.
When you see people
especially like I said, with the fact that we have phones and social media, and like you can see what people are feeling,
Mm-hmm.
And it definitely it took me a minute. I went through all these stages of emotions, dealing with and kind of coming to terms with where we're at right now. I mean, there's a bit of a grieving process for me. All of my stuff got canceled.
Same.
I was excited. I had a whole year booked out, and now we're like, okay, yeah. And I know that we're not, it's all relative, we're doing stuff on this level, but everyone understands what that feels like. I mean, anybody out there that's in school, all your schools put on hold. All your events, maybe if you're in high school, you have the school dances and the events and stuff, everything
graduation.
Yeah, that's hard. And you have to acknowledge that there's a grieving process. You're allowed to feel sad.
And you're allowed to be pissed off.
Yeah.
You didn't get to wear your prom dress and go and be with your prom day, and you didn't get to go up there in front of your family and on graduation day. You are allowed to be pissed off about that.
Yeah.
That is okay. And you are allowed to have some terrible, miserable days. That is okay. Yeah. People think we get told that we have to be happy and nice and pretty all the time, and that is just not real.
No.
There are some days where I'm like, I'm in a bad mood, and that's okay. Just stay away from me. And that's just how you just have to. The acceptance of your feelings is what we have to start doing.
Yeah, and also you have to figure out. It's really helpful to figure out an outlet that's not harmful to yourself or anybody else. Mm-hmm. Don't take it out on yourself. Don't take it out on somebody that you love. figure out a way to sort of release that energy. I don't know. Some people want to go on a run or work out, or some people.
I wish I was like that.
I know. I haven't been
get
running
addicted to running or working out. That'd be great. I've been addicted to everything else.
And it's funny, you know what? I'm naturally like a lazy person too. I'd rather just lounge around. That's more my idea of a good time. But you know, I mean, anybody that you talk to, they look at this. I'm not running in this. But anybody that you talk to, any therapist says, you know, look, exercise is a really good way to combat feelings of anxiety. It's chemical.
It does work.
You don't have to be a, Olympic sprinter. You don't have to be a weightlifter, but do something to get your heart rate up. Dance around the room. And this is an amazing time while we're in quarantine. No one's watching. You got a ton of time. Take a dance class online. Like there's all these, do something silly that you've never tried before as an outlet, as a challenge for yourself. It will get your mind off of the anxiety. It'll get your mind off of what everybody else is doing. Do it for you, you know?
Mm-hmm.
I haven't taken a dance class yet, but I think I'm going to.
Oh my God, now I was going to be like, do you want to take a dance class with me? I mean, where is Richard Simmons when we need him?
Yeah. Oh.
I'd be sweating to the oldies with him every day if he was doing live Zoom. Like, I wish I could be doing stuff like that. Like, that's what I'm going to get into next week.
Where is Richard?
Where is Mr. Simmons? We need him right now. Now is his time for a comeback. For sure.
Come on, Rich. Come on, Dick. But yeah, it's been weird. But like you said, like music has been a great outlet. If there's anything creative that you like to do, like it really does help to find projects. That's been the key for me in this whole thing. What have you been doing to kind of keep your mind busy?
So I've been doing I get my 10,000 steps in a day. So I usually max out at about 14 to 18,000 steps because there's nothing else to do. So I just go walking. I've learned how to cook, which is new because if anyone's ever been to this household, you know that no one in my family cooks. That is why my dad used to hide his drugs in the oven. There's a story behind that. So that's a big deal. Reconnecting with friends. I've learned how to meditate. Just little thing, like I've been learning to be okay being alone. It's only this week that I've been quarantining with my parents. So for the last 2.5, almost 3 months, I was alone at mine. And learning to be okay with my own company and at peace with myself was so hard, but I feel so accomplished that I got there. And everyone else kept calling me being like, how are you doing this? I'm like, I don't know. I honestly don't know.
It's funny because I'm used to spending time alone. I kind of need it. I'm like, what do they call it? Like an extroverted introvert or something? Isn't there
Yeah.
Like I like people. I love socializing. I love being on stage and performing, but I also need my time to sort of recharge. And with this quarantine, I find it very interesting because it could have very well been that I had been by myself this whole time.
Yeah.
But I was lucky enough to have 2 friends that were relocating from New York right before the quarantine started. So when I was on tour in January and February down under, they were house sitting for me. And it's a really close friend of mine. He used to live here in town. He's danced for me for years. He was relocating from New York to do Hamilton, the musical. This is my buddy Terrence. This is one of my best friends.
Terrence with you.
You met Terrence.
Yeah, I've met Terrence.
So he was like, oh, can me and my boyfriend and our dog, do you think that we could land at your place while we look for where we're going to live? And I was like, absolutely. And so he was staying here. And then when quarantine started, it was not the time for them to look for an apartment.
No.
So I was like, just stay. And that has been the blessing, is that I've had sort of a family vibe here at the house. And it's one of those things where it's relearning how to find your own space even when you're with people in the house. I still need my own time. And that's been a really interesting learning curve for me because I'm usually just alone because I'm alone, because I don't have roommates. And so it's been good. You know, I come into my little office here, I do my work, I have my projects, I have my bedroom, my bathroom, and then when we're downstairs, we're socializing. And it's been good to have that balance. It feels like family.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I think that's so beautiful that you have that built-in community with you, and you're learning to compromise and have space, and that's so important.
And the dogs like to play together, and they're hilarious. They're so cute.
Like my body.
Hello.
See, hi. Oh, you smell. She does. Her breath smells. Well, I'm gonna let you go. I cannot thank you enough, Adam. And I have to tell you, you are so fucking handsome. It makes me sick. Every time I look into your eyes, I'm just like, why am I not a man? This is not fair. Not fair.
You look amazing as well.
Thank you. And when this is done, dance party, please.
What'd you say?
I know. I said, when this is done, can we have a dance party, please?
Yes, please. I love that idea.